What's up, everybody? Justin here from the All Things MSP podcast. I'm here live at Pax8, and I have Jeffrey Newton from Cyft. We're going to talk to him a little bit about what Cyft is. Dude, hi, thank you so much for being here. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, just give us, who are you? Give us a spiel. Who are you? What's Cyft? And what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah, first question was mint chocolate chip.
Nice.
It's always been there, so that one was easy. Jeffrey Newton, been at MSP for 18 years, worked at 5 different MSPs 7 times, did the whole tech thing, then I was in the sales and marketing thing, up until co-founding Cyft. And so where I'm at now and why I decided to make that move was I got really exhausted as a buyer and as an MSP with solutions that created more problems than they solved for me when we would bring them in for the business. And so when I saw what Cyft was doing, it was just sort of like lights out, and I couldn't unsee it, and here I am.
All right, so what does Cyft do? Because as an MSP owner myself, and granted I'm on the Apple side, boo, whatever. I feel you on the you bring in a new vendor and it becomes a problem for you. So what does Cyft do, and how does it help the MSPs?
Yeah, so what we built was what we call Service Intelligence Platform. Now, what the heck's Service Intelligence? It's really about where the collective value in your business pools, which is in the context. And if you think about how the industry's told MSPs they need to operate as it relates to best practices, KPIs, measure this, utilization, real-time time entry, all those things that is just the bane of every MSP's existence, but you know you need to do it. Technology's evolved so far, so fast that we can actually make all of that clerical work, the administrative side of what the techs have to do, completely invisible. So we built a lightweight application that can capture the audio right then and there, meeting your technicians exactly where they are in the workflow they're already doing, which is helping your customers. And now we're able to lift the context out of all of those conversations in real time. And then we have what we call that service intelligence layer, which is all of the context in the in-between. It's the tribal knowledge, it's the tech-to-tech conversation, it's the little nuances that would otherwise be missed when you're talking to that CFO of the customer, and you pick up on something that a level 1 tech may not, but you as the business owner, you would. You miss all of that if all of you're aiming for is, are you at 82% utilization this week, and what do your ticket notes look like?
Right.
So we can capture all that context with voice, and then we use a bunch of different AI functions and agents and a lot of other tooling to say, let's bring technological advances to an industry that has sort of accepted good enough for long enough, and allow the people that really just want to help people focus on the helping people part.
I do like that. I do like that people trying to help people thing. So are we talking about like it's a piece of software that's running? I would run it on my laptop when I go into a meeting. It's going to audio capture the whole thing, and then it's going to output some sort of amazing brain mind map or something like that. So how am I going to take the context out and then be able to like distribute that down to like say my tier 1 guys?
Right. So think through the lens of how frustrating it is even for some people to interact with LLMs or any of the big names. It's generally because there's a disconnect between understanding the nuance of the discipline, right?
Sure.
Like MSPs, we have our own vernacular, we have our own vocabulary, we have our own instincts.
Right. The amount of times I've had to tell ChatGPT like what something is,
exactly.
Because it doesn't, even though you'd think at this point it should, but it doesn't know what those things are.
Right. And so what we built is multi-layers of tech to understand what it is to be an MSP, so that you can treat us like your brand new coworker that you're hiring and onboarding, not like a tool, not like a piece of the stack. And so yes, it's just a lightweight app. You install it on your laptop, and like you can anchor to some things that are familiar. So like a meeting note recorder, right? What all of them will do now, we show up, yes, we listen, and then we send you an email that you probably don't even look at anymore.
Right.
Technology allows you to move everything to outcomes now and action. And so while we're there listening, because we're tapped into local hardware, we aren't dependent upon, are you a Google Apps, or are you a Teams, are you a Zoom, none of that, or Slack. We just tap into the local hardware. So now we can listen to anything that you want us to, whether that's a sidebar conversation between you and I talking about the outage, right? And now I'm capturing the tribal knowledge that would otherwise be lost because that isn't documented anywhere.
Right.
Or it could be the actual one-to-one phone conversation with your technician to end user, and you'll capture all of it. Now, what does all of it mean? Well, what if it was a printer down ticket that slowly evolves to, it's actually like a DHCP reservation issue, so the printer's offline because of that. Well, now we're actually listening to the context as it streams through, and then serving up to that technician, whether it's level 1, level 2, level 3, like, here's how you should go about troubleshooting that issue based upon your documentation in IT Glue, based upon past tickets in ConnectWise, based on the tribal knowledge that already sits inside.
Yeah.
And so it's less about just capturing more raw info like those note takers and filling up your PSA with a bunch of useless info. Instead, it's agents that understand the different specific roles, right? So a VCIO, a service manager, L1, L2, L3, and we can bring all those agents to interpret the context and then create the actions.
That's cool. I'm thinking about the idea here where like I have those plenty of calls with my tier one guys, right? They say, hey, this is something I haven't seen before, and I would get on, I jump on a Zoom because my team is fully distributed, and we usually, if I'm going to walk them through something, I will Zoom record it, and then I will send them the Zoom, and then they will write an SOP. And I'm assuming what your point here is that like this could just kind of do...
At the end of your call,
you could do all of it for me for the most part, right? And kick out that SOP.
Yep.
Where I'm thinking though, this is ridiculous, because all I'm thinking about is like, how many times I have fixed something for somebody without having that conversation, right? So it's also a matter of training, because I think a big problem is that people that are higher up in an MSP, we all say the same thing. I don't want to be day-to-day in tickets, but we don't actually pass that knowledge on or have a way to pass that knowledge on downstream.
Right.
And I feel like something like Cyft, that's where you're gonna jump in. So there might be like a little bit of like a modality change where the owner has to make sure he's having those conversations with people. That way your product can grab it. But the idea that knowledge can be transferred downstream, because I think that's always the biggest problem. Because like I have this problem in our MSP is like, well, how do I convince my team to write SOPs?
Right.
And like, people are like, well, just pay them more money. It's like, yeah, sure. I'm so glad you could tell me that.
Yeah, you're still asking them to do something they absolutely don't want to do. Yeah.
Nobody wants to see, like, nobody's like, you know what I want to do today? I'm going to write 45 SOPs on how to fix a printer or a DHCP reservoir. Like, no one wants to do that.
Yeah.
And we do feel that a lot of people in our industry should have that innate knowledge coming in. That's why they got into this job in the first place. But then you find out really they don't.
Yeah.
So I feel like something like Cyft is where it fits right in between that thing. Forces owners to have conversations, which are good because you want to have those.
Yeah.
Transcribes and rewrites that knowledge into the right pathway in the right pace. Just don't overboard with the emojis like ChatGPT.
No, that's just it, right? Because you got to think through this lens of not only the best practice stuff, but how is the documentation, the creation of the artifacts, useful when you need them, right?
Yeah.
So basically build the right breadcrumbs. This kind of comes back to my origin story of being an MSP for 18 years. It's like vendors didn't produce tools that really met me how I was doing the job. As a result, enablement and adoption were a nightmare. I was really frustrated and burnt out and generally jaded by the end of the contract. So that's why we chose to build in such a way that you don't have to change your tech's behavior at all, right? If we're writing on the hardware that they're doing the work on already, and we can capture other modalities too, but voice is really the primary way, because if you'll ever notice, like what you would say to your junior or senior tech in conversation is far more rich than what you would write, even in your SOP.
Yeah.
And so what we'll do is we can hear that, listen to it, but then we serve you all of the, do you want this or not? So the human in the loop piece is, here's an SOP we picked up based upon that conversation, right? Do you want to push it to IT Glue? Do you want to push it to Hoodoo? Yes or no? Or maybe here's a delta of, we noticed that during the call you referenced this particular group policy or something, right? But the documentation in the SOP was talking about a server that was replaced 2 years ago. We now know, because we can see your RMM, we can see those tools, like, do you want to update the document as well? And so you have real-time living documentation that's useful.
Do you grab screenshots?
We can.
Okay.
We aren't doing anything with that presently, but because we're writing locally, we can. And so part of that is, like, think of one tool that comes to mind is like ScribeHow, right?
Okay.
The little Chrome application that's like taking the screenshots when you click to pre-build an SOP.
Oh, that's cool.
So we can do similar things like that, but also think through this lens of additional context for troubleshooting.
Right.
So like, what is the problem? Hey, end user, can you show me what's going on? Yep. Now I'm looking at it through the RMM. It could snap a screenshot and then do some research behind the scenes for you to come back to the context window that we call it. It's like a heads-up display for the technician that says, based on what I'm seeing, here are your next 3 troubleshooting steps. And as it evolves and goes through, that's sort of the vision of the direction we see it going.
Look, there's a lot of power to be held by something like this. I think it's really cool. I would almost get to the point where I feel like I would just have it on all the time for even my personal life.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be great for CyftAI. If you want to make a really, I'm giving you unsolicited advice. If you want to make a shift, turn it into how to load the dishwasher the right way. Like,
right.
Yeah,
well, that's actually a great point, because one of the things that we learned early on with product and knew because of being in multiple MSPs was you have your own unique DNA, right? But so does every customer. So back to that whole line about talk to us like you're onboarding your newest tech, not like we're a tool. That's where that stuff lives. It's in the 3-month onboarding that you're giving your person. It's like, hey, when this customer calls in, we actually refer to them as this acronym, but the acronym doesn't live anywhere in any of our systems, right? We refer to them as ABC, not Alpha Bravo Charlie Company, right? And those things, it's just littered with rich context in how we go about the business, but none of that really lives in your systems of record, but it can. You're just not ever going to get that out of the people. But then we looked at that and said, well, how can documentation become the byproduct of doing the work? Allow your people to focus on what they want to do, which is doing the work, and then just lift, elevate, and feed the documentation.
All right, so now I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one, right? I can already hear people saying, like, this thing is intrusive, right? You have it on at every call. It's listening to every conversation. How do you get buy-in from the employees? Because, like, I feel like if as an MSP owner forces this on their employees, like, there'll be pushback. What is the go-to line for employers to get buy-in from the employees in their MSP to, like, use something like this?
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's the same thing that kind of happened to me, was like, it can be intrusive. However, we believe you should have full control, right? So it's not Big Brother through the lens of, like, it's always on and you're stuck with it. It's hotkey driven currently, so you can turn it on and off. You can always see whether or not we are or not gathering context. And then whatever amount of that context you want to be visible back to you is fully in your control too. So you can have it but not really use it, but then you're not going to get the value out, right?
Course,
so to, like, answer that more directly, it's every technician that's out there, and I remember it from when I was one. It's like the Monday morning pre-10 a.m. deadline of having your timesheet submitted from the week before, right? And that's like the slackiest version of it, right? But it's still true. Archaeologically recreating what I did last week just so I can hit a utilization number to keep my job, like, all of that goes away. So if the messaging to the tech is like, do you want another conversation from your service manager about your timesheet, or do you never want to hear about timesheets again? And it's just all right there. And the other thing that no one really talks about, but we discovered immediately, was the cognitive load that exists on these technicians in their jobs is so high that the amount of time it takes to create even the ticket note, right? Because we're typing it. Now, because we're typing it, we're thinking through it. We're re-articulating it. We're thinking about who it's going to, who's the audience. We're rewriting it. It's like a 5 to 7 minute experiment, right? Versus one, if we were listening to the whole call, it's just already there for you. But in a crisp, clean, standardized way that when everyone is using it and all of the context comes into your PSA through a Cyft, then you get muscle memory built in too, because everyone's documentation is uniform. And so then it's just more like, it's almost like the oh God moment, right? But like once you see it, that's the thing. Like you can't go back into the reality because you feel the acute pain of the problems we have today, and you can see how that is just not a problem anymore moving forward.
Do you have? I have 2 last questions for you. One is how do you get Cyft to write in the tone of the customer, right? Because like I'm from New York, I get called out for the way I talk all the time, right? And my documentation kind of reads the way I would talk. But then I got staff that are in Columbia, Missouri, very different tonality, very different inflection points. Can Cyft pick up on that and write in my way, or is it unified across every MSP?
It is 3 layers. Cyft out of the box, MSP level standardization, and user level standardization. So if you have a disparate team that's in different parts of the states or whatnot, or across the world really, you can tailor the different things at a user level, at an MSP level, and then just how we've built ourselves out of the box to begin with. And an out of the box thing is more like contextually relevant, understanding MSP vernacular, right? Vocabulary, so that you don't have to always adjust the definition or something along those lines. But we built in that flexibility to where if we see, for example, that we've listened to the whole thing, the interaction's done, and we're feeding you the do you want to accept this detail, then you change something in there, we can detect, do you regularly change that? and then surface that back to you as well, saying like,
I'm afraid that all my SOPs are going to have the F word like every other word.
Yeah, so that's the other gatekeep, right? Because you got to think about security and other things. So things like PII, PHI, right? Things that are discussed.
Yeah.
We have these pre-processing layers that know to truncate or eliminate that stuff and whitewash it, right?
Don't
don't put the security exactly
number in there.
Right. Well, it's very similar where we also have, so on the client-facing note side, right? So in a managed world, PSA, that'd be the external side. Well, the things that get written into the external fields are actually ran through a series of hospitality prompts, because we need to shave down the abrasiveness of tech communication, right? Because it's really about customer service and having bedside manner. So it's just the discipline of understanding all of the nuance of what it's like and building that into products so that you don't have to force feed it.
And as someone who's big on hospitality, and I've been talking about this on our show for a long time, the Unreasonable Hospitality book, I think having that is great. All right, so last question. Does it work with all? I mean, you mentioned ConnectWise, you mentioned IT Glue. Does it work with all PSAs? Who are you currently working with? What's your roadmap? Like quick.
So we initially started with ConnectWise as the PSA. Okay. We have Halo and Autotask coming within 2 months. Okay. And then IT Glue, Hoodoo, so for your documentation sources. That way we can suck in your current SOPs, your current documentation, and force that up to your tech at the beginning of the call, for example. And that's pretty much where we're at the moment.
Where can people find out about CyftAI online?
Yeah, best place is cyft.ai, CYFT.ai. Otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm super busy, super active, publishing all the time.
Awesome. Jeffrey, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you very much.